Watch this.
Retracing the timeline of events, we're taking a closer look at the movements of 4 University of Idaho students in the hours prior to their killing. The Leonid meteor shower is expected to peak tonight through the weekend, and one Eagle man shares how he gets some of the best shots with his local setup. And we're talking turkey. Less than a week away from Thanksgiving, and there is a unique alternative to the full meal. But is it any good? We'll find out. Serious questions remain from the Moscow and Greater Idaho community about the killing of 4 University of Idaho students last weekend. And a side story over the last week has been the messy release of information from investigators and the ongoing rumor mill that can complicate the entire conversation. Now, getting the story straight, that's what people want right now. And we do understand that investigators can't release everything. We don't expect them to, but an almost random stream of information from different agencies and leaders has really made the situation in Moscow complicated, to say the least. Now, today, though, we are finally getting a more concrete timeline from investigators about the victims' activity Saturday into early Sunday morning last weekend. And that timeline gives an illustration of where the 4 students were, where they traveled, and possibly who they were around. Here's our Morgan Romero.
This horrific attack on 4 college students happened less than a mile from the University of Idaho campus. Sororities and fraternities and their out-of-houses are mostly centralized in this area. New information from Idaho State Police reveals 2 of the victims, Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle, were together Saturday night, November 12th. They went to a Sigma Chi fraternity party across from their home on King Road from 8 to 9 p.m. The other 2 victims, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, were at the Corner Club on Main Street. It's about a mile and a half away from the home on King Road. Police say they were there from around 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. After leaving the bar, the girls went to the Grub Truck just down Main Street from the Corner Club. It's about a 6-minute walk. They're seen in a video from the food truck, ordering food around 1:40 Sunday morning. U of I students tell us it's a common weekend routine to go from the Corner Club to the food truck. Idaho State Police says all 4 victims were back at the King Road house, a little more than a mile from the food truck, by 1:45 a.m. Sunday, November 13th. What unfolded after that is unclear. It wasn't until noon on Sunday police received a call of an unconscious person. When they got to the home on King Road, they found the 4 victims, Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie, dead. They confirm all 4 were stabbed early Sunday morning. The Latah County coroner tells us all the victims could have been killed with the same knife or a very similar knife. Police say they haven't yet found the weapon. And yesterday, the Latah County coroner's office released the autopsies on the victims, finding all 4 were stabbed to death with a knife. The coroner says all victims could have been killed with the same knife or a very similar knife. The coroner says it's likely some of the victims were asleep when it happened, but she couldn't say which ones. She says bed sheets were taken for testing from the home. We also learned there were 2 other roommates inside the home when police got there and at the time of the attack, but they were not hurt. We're told they are cooperating with law enforcement, and right now police haven't gone so far as to call them witnesses. During a news conference held earlier this week, reporters asked Moscow police about that video I mentioned earlier from the food truck that caught both Maddie and Kaylee. Moscow Police Chief James Fry says the Twitch video stream is helping give them the time and space of where the 2 girls were leading up to their deaths.
Hello. Hi. Welcome back.
In this live stream from the Grub Truck, you see the girls walk into the frame and up to the food truck. It appears they're with a young man, the one in the hat and dark jacket. Here you can see him put his hood on. He hangs back several feet behind the girls as they order from the food truck. He then follows Kaylee and Maddie after they order and stands right next to them. It looks like he never ordered any food, but you can see him talking to other people there. Several minutes later, the girls grab their food, take a picture, laugh and talk to each other, and quickly walk away. One of the people the young man is talking to points out that the girls left. He throws up his hand, waits a moment, and then appears to walk after them. You see him wave at the girls and then walk a separate direction. This recording shows all 3 are at the food truck for about 10 minutes, and police say Kaylee and Madison were home just minutes later, by about 1:45. Their home is a little more than a mile from the Grub Truck. A University of Idaho student who says he's friends with the victims told us this young man was with the girls at the Corner Club before this. ISP says authorities contacted the young man in the video, and they interviewed him as part of the investigation. They are not labeling him as a suspect or person of interest at this time. Police have been going to local businesses, as we've been reporting, asking about any purchases of knives bought in the Moscow area around the day of the murders. We also learned that the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit is now helping in the investigation. We previously reported that the FBI was there helping, but now we know this Behavioral Analysis Unit is helping. And what that does is it helps with crime scene analysis, interviewing techniques. It also helps create a profile of an unknown suspect that police can look out for, which really goes to show you that they do not have a person of interest right now. They do not have a suspect or suspects at this time, and they are backtracking messaging. So earlier in a press conference that they held, the first and only that they've held so far, they said, we can't not say that there is no threat to the community, when initially, right after this happened, they said this was a targeted attack, there is no ongoing threat to the community. Now, just a few days after that, they are backtracking that and saying, we can't say that because we don't have a suspect.
And that really has been, a consistent side story that we followed here at KTVB, and we've seen on social media, Idaho news outlets, speaking up that the release of information in this case has been a frustrating thing, I think, for the media. And as media, we understand that, investigators, they can't release everything. And I don't think we're asking them to. But I guess the idea that there's been inconsistent release, or being, one elected official will tell different outlets different things.
Yes. So initially when this happened on Sunday, everybody was panicked because students on campus got vandal alerts and they were told to shelter in place. That vandal alert was lifted, and then police said this was a targeted, isolated attack, which is still the case, to be clear. Still true that this was a targeted, isolated attack, police believe. But then to say that there is no ongoing threat and then backtrack that, what does that have the community of Moscow thinking? What does that have students on campus thinking? A lot of them were so fearful that they came home right after that. And that's actually an important piece. Police up in Moscow saying it is a little bit of a hindrance in their investigation that a lot of people aren't there right now, but they are going to do these interviews with anybody they need to talk to wherever they're at right now. And to Joe's point about giving interviews and information to various media outlets, that has been a point of contention today. A lot of national news media outlets have gotten information from elected officials and other leaders up there that maybe some local outlets haven't gotten. And Idaho State Police, I haven't been able to get a hold of them today, but they have been a lot more communicative lately in the last day since taking over the public information officer duties.
And I want to be really clear, Moscow Police, Idaho State Police investigators, they're still looking for information. They're still asking for information. So they're asking, anyone who has seen or, known anything, here's the information.
Yeah, call that tip line, 208-883-7180. You can also email now. There's an email set up. That's tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. Report any suspicious behavior, any pertinent information. And really, Joe, if anybody has any video surveillance, any ring cameras, any businesses have anything from that area, that could really help law enforcement try to track this person down as well.
Sometimes I know we hear that people are shy or they don't want to be involved. Any piece of information can be very helpful to investigators. And, unfortunately, we don't know what they need to know right now. So any information helps. But Morgan, I know that you, our investigative team, Alexandra Duggan, she's still up in Moscow this weekend. So our team will continue to follow this through the weekend. But Morgan, thank you for reporting. And if you missed anything Morgan said or our team said, all this coverage is on KTVB.com. Before you start having conversations online or even with your friends, make sure you know the facts, because the rumor mill is damaging.
It is damaging, and that's unfortunately what happens when you don't get a lot of information, is people try to fill that vacuum with speculation and rumors, and so we just want to give you the facts as soon as we get them.
Morgan Romero reporting. Thank you so much, Morgan.
You bet.
So the election came and went, and the rest is history. Sort of. The whole election thing is actually still going on. The results need to be certified, dot the I's, cross the T's, do the official process. Well, that process continues tonight, and it really is kind of a new process here in Idaho, as a matter of fact. There was a law signed into law in March of this year, Senate Bill 1274, it's what is formerly known as, but what it did is it created a post-election audit after each primary and general election. So they did this already back in May. So now is the second time they're going to get this process going. So Idaho counties are selected to participate in an audit, and those counties will be chosen by a random ball draw from 3 different groupings based on their overall population. They want to get a different sized, counties. 100,000 voters or more, 20,000 to 999,000, under 20,000, so we can get a whole vacuum here. Now, the random audit drawing is actually coming up tonight at 7 p.m., so all the counties, they'll be watching. Each Idaho county will receive a number of balls proportioned to their voting population in the drawing, and that's relative to, the group they are in, small, medium, large. Now, from each group, multiple counties will be selected, after which those precincts, they're going to go through and actually start looking at the results and auditing them. So in total, 8 counties counties will be drawn, and they will control their respective ballots, and they will be actually turning those ballots over to the county sheriff until the audit, which starts tomorrow. So the drawing is tonight. The audit starts taking place tomorrow, and it'll be on site in person in each of these 8 county locations during the next 4 or 5 days right after the draw tonight. So next week, we're going to circle back to this process because we get a lot of messages from you at home wanting to see transparently what goes on after Election Day. So we'll follow up this next week. But again, the audit lottery is tonight, and then they'll actually start working on some of the audits next week. So it'll be interesting to watch here on the tour. It is that time of year, though, health insurance open enrollment season. And if you don't have health insurance through your employer or you don't qualify for Medicaid or Medicare, there is another option to get health care in Idaho. You can enroll for the medical and dental coverage through Your Health Idaho, which is the state health insurance exchange. In the Your Health Idaho open enrollment period, it ends in about a month, December 15th. Now, this year, the exchange is offering 141 medical plans, 21 different dental plans, and for the first time ever, you can apply for a tax credit and health insurance on the same application and find out if you qualify within minutes. Your Health Idaho also says enhanced tax credits significantly lower monthly premium payments, so good to know. Now, this year, rules are also changing that could make insurance more affordable for some families, and we wanted to tell you about this. This week on our Viewpoint program, we spoke with Your Health Idaho Executive Director Pat Kelly, and Pat explains that affordability will now be determined separately for the person who gets coverage through their employer and their family.
Let's talk about a family of 4, gross income of about $60,000. So the employee pays $75 a month. That would be considered affordable. But when you combine the family, it's $475. That is considered not affordable. The family members would then be eligible for a tax credit, and they would shop on the exchange.
And so it could switch the whole family, including the employee, over to the health insurance exchange, or it can now be separated too, where the employee can stay with their employer insurance and the family could get covered through Your Health Idaho?
That's right. It is all about the affordability for either the employee and or the family. So you could have families that are split, but you could also have families that all shop on the exchange. And if all that math is kind of overwhelming, and it can be, our application process takes care of all of that for you.
You can find all the information you need to know right now at yourhealthidaho.org. In Viewpoint, we have full details for you that'll air this Sunday morning at 9 o'clock on Channel 7 with Doug Petcash. 208 returns after this. It's a car. It's a plane. Well, it's actually a meteor shower up on many cameras around the Treasure Valley. But one man's camera has the best view of the Leonid meteor shower streaking across the sky. We'll show you. Got a meteor of a story to share with us, or maybe just a comment? Well, you can text us anytime. 208-321-5614. Be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208, and your comment may be on air in a little bit. Stay tuned to the end of the show. Today's callback story takes us to the stars, in a way. The Leonid meteor shower began earlier this month, but is expected to peak over tonight into the weekend. And it's called the Leonid shower because the meteors originate from the sickle of Leo constellation, and it's a pretty well-known shower too. Under ideal conditions during the peak, you might be able to see 10 to 15 meteors an hour, and that's just with the naked eye. But if you're really good and you have a good camera, say a contraption with several cameras, maybe 7, that also records and sorts out the streaks across the night for you. And you might see a lot more than that as well. And you might just be Jordan Ragsdale from Eagle.
A garage is usually a space for stuff.
What is that thing?
But this garage in Eagle
This is the telescope I use to capture planets.
is more of a space
So it zooms in really, really far.
for space stuff.
You gotta be careful with that.
It's a tight squeeze.
Jordan Ragsdale is really into telescopes.
So this is a C14, and that indicates a 14-inch diameter.
Is that big?
It's pretty big for a telescope, yeah.
And as he said, it's good for spotting planets.
What's that one for?
This one is what was good for planets 50 years ago.
Is this a hobby, first of all?
A hobby, yes.
How much money would you say you've spent on it?
I've probably sold 10 times more than I've bought, or that I've kept, I should say. So I like to say I've broken even.
For Jordan, what he's spent wasn't really a problem. It's what he's missed.
Always when I go out to astronomy parties to stargaze, everybody goes, "Oh my God, did you see that meteor?" And this is me. What? No, I missed it.
So a couple of years ago, he had an idea.
Because I have FOMO and I never want to miss something like that. I was like, I'm going to get a camera that captures every single meteor 24 hours a day. I'm never going to miss another one.
That little thing captures all that.
Oh yeah, it captures everything.
And this month, it's been especially active.
This last meteor shower where, we've got 2 or 3 different showers overlapping each other. This was a good one a couple nights ago to the south. The Leonids and also the northern Taurids have been phenomenal this year. That's the same one from a different angle
Then there was this one
from a couple nights ago.
that showed up somewhere in the middle of Oregon.
So people actually saw it from Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Idaho. Since they explode so high up in the atmosphere, usually 20, 30 miles, 300 miles away, lightning doesn't do that.
But meteors do, by hitting the atmosphere and blasting into pieces.
And that energy creates all the light.
Every morning, Jordan scans what he captured over a cup of coffee.
So like hundreds a night.
But easily 100 a night. When you get to the Perseids in the summer, 500 a night.
Okay, so a big cup of coffee.
But I would say, that this system here in our light pollution with all the trees that I have, I'll capture 30,000 a year.
A big number from such a small device
It's my meteorologist on the roof. So,
in a field where size seems to matter.
and then here's the big one.
Well, we're not Denver or Buffalo expecting a major snowstorm this weekend, but Rick, something we are dealing with here locally, the inversion. And if you're new to the area, what you're seeing in the sky, yeah, that happens from time to time. It's called an inversion. But Rick, what conditions do we have to see for an inversion to form, and how do we get out of this?
Well, I know that we've seen a lot of, over the years, a lot of people have seen this and they know exactly what it is. It basically means inverted or the reverse. Let me just give you an idea, just as we look outside. In other words, the sun heats the earth, and then the earth warms the surface, and then the air starts to rise. So that's what typical weather should be, is the fact warmer here, cooler up in the mountains. But what happens during an inversion, or inverted or reverse, is you got warmer air up in the mountains that's trapping colder air down here in the valley. So that's why we call it inversion. Not always does that mean pollution, but in the wintertime it does, usually, because we have, well, in the valley, as we take a look at it, the valley itself we're really not living in a really big valley. The Boise Valley or the Treasure Valley, however we want to look at it here, you can see we have mountains on both sides, and we're basically just a bowl. And what happens is when we get really cold in the winter, warmer air comes in from storms over the top of that cold air. It happens usually at night when it gets really cold, and then the air gets heavier and it settles into the valley, and then a storm comes in over the top of that creates the warm air above, and then you've got that inverted or reverse effect that's taking place. The pollution down here in the valley begins to develop because we're just getting, Joe, more and more people that are moving into the area, more and more activity. So because of that, with this last front that came through last night, we were hoping that it would change things, and it did a lot for many of the mountain locations down here throughout valley locations, except for Boise. That's where you see most of the haze and everything out through there. As we move to the east, you see here that we've got green, or in the good category for much of the Magic Valley, as well as of the Sun Valley area. So because of this, we are going to be waiting for a storm. What we have to do is we have to have some winds, or we have to have some vertical motion, which basically breaks up the inversion, breaks up that inverted effect, and we get back to the sunshine heating the earth and seeing the warm air starting to rise once again. And then, when you think about that, as we look at temperatures around the area, that means that the valley is usually warmer than the mountains, which is always the case, unless we have an inversion, Joe.
So there you go, all your inversion facts from Rick. Thank you so much, Rick. Well, if you haven't checked the calendar yet, you might want to, and I want to know if you've gotten your turkey yet, because it's less than a week till Thanksgiving, 6 days. And with the price of everything going up, the next story might have you cancel the whole turkey thing. The Jones Soda Company is known for the unique soda flavors. Boy, do we know this. Back in 2003, the company took on a new challenge, the taste of a Thanksgiving feast. And it's not just cranberry sauce. Idaho Life reporter John Miller went to the Jones Soda warehouse to try out the new unique flavor in this 208 redial.
Of all the funky flavors stacked in the Jones Soda warehouse,
Green apple, you have blue bubble gum.
Foo-foo berry.
there's nothing foo-foo about this.
Turkey and gravy soda.
Gross.
You want to hammer some down in the spirit of Thanksgiving?
No, I don't.
No? Dude, you gotta try some.
I gotta catch my bus.
All right. Are they really gonna sell this?
We're getting inundated with calls.
Several hundred a day, says Jones's Jennifer Q, since their CEO decided to turn dinner into a drink.
Yeah, we use a flavor company.
Ah, sweet nectar.
So we decided to do a limited run. It was sort of a fun thing, and it's sort of gotten a lot bigger than we thought.
Yeah, it's turkey and gravy.
It is.
Which makes perfect sense if you think about it.
Do you like turkey?
I love it.
Do you like soda?
I love it.
Well, let's give it a rip.
I'm ready.
Tastes like gravy.
Nasty.
Nasty? Tastes like Hawaiian turkey.
And it's sugar-free.
Take it off the market. It's too much. Oh, take it off the market, please.
I thought you like turkey, right?
I love it, but
You like soda, right?
yeah,
What's the problem?
it doesn't mix very well.
You think you'll be picking some up?
No.
Put a six-pack in the middle of the dining room table.
There you go. Thanksgiving in a bottle, a carbonated Christmas. What about Easter? Ham soda?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I will not say that we wouldn't do that.
John Miller, Idaho's News Channel 7.
I don't know what to say about that. Jones was only offering the soda on shelves in Washington and Michigan at that time. No word on if you can get this in stores locally yet, but if you think you might want to try the savory soda, you'd better hurry. The Jones official soda website says they have limited stock. I wonder why. Well, thanks for everyone watching around the world. Let's take a look at one comment real quickly. This one says, you can get the turkey and gravy Jones soda at Fred Meyer currently. I don't know if that's true. Go check it out.